When you are making a video game, movie, or TV show and you have hundreds of millions of dollars at your disposal and years to come up with a cohesive plan, there is no excuse for your failure. You should be able to hire really good directors, producers, writers, actors. You should be able to come up with really good sets and outfits, and there should not really be a reason why something comes out and it is a total flop. And unfortunately for Amazon, one of their series that just didn't pick up with audiences because they did stray so much from the source material and they decided to go in a new modern direction is with the Wheel of Time. And now for the 5 people who actually like this, they're finding out that their favorite show has been canceled. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, the decisions that they made with the Wheel of Time truly never made sense to me. Same goes for Amazon's The Rings of Power. With The Rings of Power, that hurts me way more because I'm a bigger fan of Tolkien's work, but on the flip side, Robert Jordan came up with an amazing world in The Wheel of Time, and it shouldn't have been that hard. They had hundreds of millions of dollars, years to come up with multiple seasons, and they had a fully fledged story. It's not like Game of Thrones where they ran out of source material. They should have just followed the original story, adapted it as closely as possible instead of making all these new modern twists and turns. And well, that gamble didn't pay off for them because after 3 seasons of slipping viewership and a growing disconnect from its core audience, Amazon's The Wheel of Time has officially been canceled, and the spin from Access media outlets like Deadline is more fantastical than anything in the show itself. I always think that this is funny, where the Access media cannot accept failure. They say, oh, this big bad company canceled it too early, just when we were actually falling in love with this world and this set of characters. They canned it. We need to bring this back. And sure, there are definitely a couple of people out there who actually liked Amazon's Wheel of Time, but I just think it boils down to the viewership not being good enough and them straying so far from the source material that they would have to start writing new storylines and bringing in new elements. They ignored characters. Most of the casting was bad in my opinion. I think Moraine was well cast. I think Lanfear was well cast. I don't even dislike Rand's actor. It's just that he was far too old for the part, in my opinion. It had some decent elements, but unfortunately, those few decent elements were not enough to outweigh the negative ones. It says Deadline broke the news in a classic PR-laced exclusive, claiming that the decision not to move forward with Season 4 was due to financial reasons and that the series was liked creatively by executives at Amazon. If it was well liked, they would have kept it going. I've also seen the Access media trying to push this narrative that, oh, sometimes it takes a fantasy show a couple of seasons to get off the ground, which is totally BS because The Witcher was really popular after Season 1. It's just that with Season 2 and Season 3, they stomped that into the ground and people fell out of love with it. Same with Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, from the get-go, was extremely popular. We are talking about the Wheel of Time. We're talking about amazing source material. It shouldn't have taken more than 1 season for it to capture people's attention. It says, though, when the Wheel of Time debuted in 2021, it was touted as Prime Video's big fantasy gamble, ushering in the genre before Rings of Power and riding the popularity of Robert Jordan's beloved book series. I personally think that not enough people cared about the Wheel of Time, but even more people care about the Rings of Power in a negative way. I think that they probably figure we spent billions of dollars on the Rings of Power, so we're going to keep that one alive because it's the Lord of the Rings, so it's got more marketability. But I feel like they would have been smarter to cancel Rings of Power because it is so hated, and then put a little bit of extra money into the Wheel of Time to maybe turn things around and get it back on track. I personally, though, don't think that either were really savable. And the show had a strong start, pulling in solid viewership for Season 1 and becoming one of Amazon's most watched premieres at the time, but by Season 3, that audience had largely moved on. According to Deadline's own report, the show slipped off Nielsen's top 10 after only 3 weeks. Compare that to Seasons 1 and 2, which stayed on the chart for the duration of their runs, and while Amazon attempted to frame Wheel of Time as a global performer, no concrete international viewership numbers were shared. forward. And if there's anything we've learned from these streaming platforms, it's that silence usually means the numbers aren't good. Yeah, they love to be able to tout their big numbers, but of course they have to have them. It's like what's happening in the video game industry. Oh, we've engaged 3 million players, but what about units sold? That's the number that people care about. But no, no, no. They need to try to spin everything as a smashing success, so they have to find ways to actually do that. One major reason for the show's struggling to maintain its audience was that it alienated longtime fans of the book series almost immediately. They race-swapped characters without lore justification. Perrin's invented wife, who was added and killed off just to give him backstory trauma, that pissed me off so bad. A sidelined Rand, the literal main character of the book series, hidden in the shadows so the show could focus more on its female cast, which never made sense to me because Wheel of Time already has so many amazing and strong female characters that can hold their own. So there's no point to sideline the literal main character to give these females agency when they already have it. Moraine and Lan's relationship was rewritten, reducing Lan to more than a background presence. The showrunner Raffi Judkins openly promoting representation over faithfulness to Jordan's lore. This individual was also supposed to go and do the God of War Amazon series, and they backed out, which I guess is good because they did not ever fucking care about faithfulness to lore. And imagine what they're going to do with God of War. It says, though, the backlash was immediate and sustained. Book fans accused the show of disrespecting the source material and trying to ride the wave of modern cultural trends instead of delivering the story that they loved. The Wheel of Time had everything for the basis of a representative or inclusive series, and if they just followed the source material, they would have been able to promote a big cast of female characters and well-written female characters, diversity, and they would have made book fans happy, so they would have had a massive audience. But no, they just had to throw all that away. It says viewers voted with their remotes and the Wheel of Time is now canceled. Unfortunately, this is another casualty of identity-focused rewritings like The Rings of Power and The Witcher, because in its report, Deadline goes out of its way to act as an unofficial PR outlet, which they also have done for The Rings of Power. So it just seems to me that Amazon is going to Deadline to give them information so they can put out their pieces before any other outlets do. That doesn't sit right with me. Probably shouldn't sit right with anybody, but it seems that they are getting that inside info. The access media, guys, that's all they really care about. It says, though, that they were parroting claims that the show was creatively getting better every season, even citing Rotten Tomatoes critic scores that jumped from 81% in season 1 to 97% in season 3. If you even take a look at the Metacritic scores for The Wheel of Time, you can see a glaring problem. Now, sure, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, a 6.5 for season 1? That's decent. It's not terrible. This is the issue. Only 526 users felt passionately enough about this show to go and leave a review. That's the problem. When you're putting hundreds of millions of dollars into something, you need a bigger audience than this. And as time goes on and series continue, usually it becomes only super fans who leave reviews because you've gotten rid of that normie crowd or the casual show crowd by a season 3 or 4 or 5. It's hardcore fans at that point who are watching. And so while those user numbers or the amount of ratings that are left usually shrink, these scores go up because those people have been around for so long. But when you're starting out with only 526 and it's a 6.5, that does not paint a very pretty picture. And I know that there are some people out there who really ended up loving this, and I'm glad that some people got some enjoyment out of it. But if you love this show and you go and read the books, it is a wildly different story, wildly different picture that's being painted. I mean, the books are significantly better. You can't really see them, but I have all of the books on this shelf. I've read them. I love them. Many people do. And it's just sad that the writers and producers that they hired for this series were not fans. Imagine if shows like The Rings of Power and Wheel of Time and even The Witcher, if they hired more people who were passionate fans, these would be making fucking bank. It says, though, the real reason for the cancellation, buried in the spin, is that the cost of producing the show outweighed the returns. Amazon reportedly explored different scenarios with co producer Sony, but none were financially viable. Translation: not enough people were watching. I'm not going to really feel all that bad. I'm not going to shed a tear for this. What I will do, though, is point and laugh at the Access Media, who had said just a few weeks ago, oh, guys, you don't have to worry about the renewal, and now it's canceled. This was a Forbes article by Paul Tassi, who said why fans shouldn't worry about a Wheel of Time season 4 renewal, and it's okay that there hadn't been a renewal announcement for season 4 yet after the truly excellent season 3, because it was going to happen. And now Forbes has to put out an article saying some very bad news for the Wheel of Time season 4 as Amazon does the unthinkable. I think that that's pretty funny that just a few weeks ago they were talking about how, oh guys, it's all okay, you don't have to worry, and the few fans have now been completely let down. Will Amazon make a statement on this? Probably not. I still think they would have been better off canceling the Rings of Power. That is just heartbreaking to me. But I guess you have to take the wins where you can. And now this abomination of a series, The Wheel of Time, has been canceled by Amazon as the viewership completely collapsed despite the positive Access Media spin. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.